Hello and welcome to the No Fear podcast. Today's guest is Jason Saltzman, serial entrepreneur having raised over $100 million. Today's episode covers everything from hiring to exits to even his stint at the State Department. Get ready for an awesome episode and enjoy.
Welcome to the No Fear podcast with your hosts, Noah and Ophir, where we sit down to discuss the journeys of accomplished young professionals who have taken action towards manifesting a career and a life that go far beyond the ordinary. Each week, we bring to you a young professional currently achieving success in entrepreneurship, STEM or other forward-thinking, innovative sectors. Please enjoy today's episode of the No Fear podcast, brought to you by House & Hughes, shophouseandhughes.com, the perfect destination for thousands of curated wall art designs.
Jason, thanks for joining us today. I'm happy to have you here.
Happy to be here, guys.
As a man with around 20 years of entrepreneurship experience and most likely 20 or more future years of entrepreneurship experience, could you give us 3 pillars that you would include as critical to the entrepreneur?
Well, I guess it depends on which phase you're at. Like if you're just getting started, it's way different than raising capital or, trying to sell your company and so on and so forth. I think those all have rings to go up. But in generally speaking, if we're talking about early stage entrepreneurship, it's, I think if I would to isolate 3 things that are sort of fundamental to thinking about being an entrepreneur, it's that are sort of like misrepresentations in the media. I think number 1 is, you have to think more than the money of things, because if you're going to build something out of nothing, more than likely you're not going to make money for a long time. So it has to be something else that drives you. Like, what's the mission? What's the vision of what you're trying to do? I think second to that is, strap up, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. The media, I think, and, when you see things being shared of these like $1 billion exits or somebody raising capital or selling their company or going public, it makes it seem like happens overnight. It absolutely doesn't. There's no straight line to the top, right? It's going to be bumpy. It's going to be turbulent, and know that the only way that you're going to make it is to go through that. And that goes into my third thing, which is the one thing that successful entrepreneurs have in common is they kept going, right? No matter what the adversity is, no matter what happened during their story and their journey, they kept going. And everybody's got a screwed up story on how they got there and what they had to overcome to get there. And, but whatever happens, if you want it that bad, you got to keep going.
Love that. That's definitely some wisdom right there. So I see that you're speaking from experience. Can you tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial background?
I'm going to try to do this because we only have a short amount of time, and I have these stories that can go on forever. So I'm going to give you the quick and dirty. So I started my career being an entrepreneur almost by mistake. I was going to high school. I started, messing around with tinkering with different businesses and just, getting thrown into environments where I was around and surrounded around people that were just hustling, trying to make their own way. And I connected with that, and while I was going to school and making money on the side, I was like, well, why am I going to pay for this? Speaking about college, if I could make my own money and I could spend my time building my own business. So that sort of was the tick on the elephant's ass of my journey, the beginning of the journey. I built several companies. Most of them have failed. I had luckily a few successes that sparked my interest and kept me humble and kept going. And the last 2 ventures that I'm super proud of is I built an incubator in New York City. We grew it from this small, 5,000 square foot space to 9 locations across the country. Did a huge partnership, an M&A transaction with Verizon. And then after that, we hired a CEO to run the business. I took my, bow out of being the CEO, hired a great person to run the organization. And then I started down this journey of figuring out, what big project that I want to work on, for the next portion of my career, the next part of my life. And I had this idea to help people that with their finances that were getting themselves into debt, and building technology that was super accessible and super transparent to people that were getting themselves into deep credit card debt, and make an app that helped them for free find their way out of debt. So that's a project I'm working on. Subsequently, we raised the seed round, rallied a team around it, and we successfully navigated a Series A. And now we're just about to launch the finalized product into market after the last 3 years of working on it. So, that's kind of like the high level. In between, I've done really cool things. We mentioned earlier, I worked with the State Department. I had a column on Entrepreneurial magazine. I've been writing and contributing to different publications, Forbes, Rolling Stone, Inc. magazine, just sharing my, thoughts and, what it's like to grow a business and keeping it real. I love to give back to other people that are starting their career and looking to become founders. And I also currently sit on the foundation board at FIU. And I get to, help the student body and connect with them and build resources to bring back to the university at the university level. So I know that's a lot, but, that's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing,
So what's very impressive is you've touched on so many different points of things you've already accomplished. So kudos to you there. It's incredible to hear your journey so far. Talk to us a little bit about the incubator you mentioned. Was this for startups, for local businesses? What was that like?
Yeah, so it was an incubator that really spoke to startup organizations in New York City. Started the business in 2011. That's when we opened up our first location. It worked kind of like a WeWork space, and I know that everybody kind of knows what WeWork is. But when we started, WeWork only had 2 locations at the time. I believe it was 2 locations. The way it worked like WeWork is we were a workspace. We had a really cool place to work. We provided all the amenities that a normal sort of real estate, comfortable office space would have for startups, but we injected it with people that were investing in companies. We injected it with mentors that can help some of these startup businesses get access to people that they wouldn't have access to, and to sort of large corporations and their initiatives on building, on old framework, sort of new ideas, around research and development. Where WeWork leaned in on office space, we sort of leaned in on really providing support for these startups, right? And over the years, we did a lot of work with different other incubators and accelerator programs like Techstars that funded, thousands of companies. That was a really, really fun time, especially in New York City, in the early 2010 era, when venture capital was just out there investing in everything. Ideas were all over the place. People were raising money and building these companies. And now it was a really interesting thing to see and to build.
So it's very clear you have your hands full. It seems like you have your hands in a lot of different points. And these are all businesses that you're owning then. So how are you managing all of this?
I would say that if you want to do big things, you gotta find out who you could bring around you, right? And that's not just a business. That's not just in business. That's really like who's going to have your back, personally, and allow you the bandwidth and the time to focus in the right direction, cutting out the noise of your life. So I think like one thing that that definitely matured me over the years was thinking about the things that I wanted to do, like a war, right? And who do I want to surround myself to go through this war? Like who's going to be a general with me? How are we going to battle it out, And I think that over the years, the bigger the project, the better the people you need around you to execute, right? So part of that is really leaning in on that you can't do it by yourself in most cases. And then thinking about what your strengths are, but more importantly, what your weaknesses are, right? Because if you could find out what you suck at and really lean in on it, be like, look, I'm not good. I don't even like then you could start to think about who you want to bring around you that can cover those bases. And more than likely, they're not going to be like you. They're not going to think like you. And it's so hard for some people, right? Because if you keep like-minded people that came from where you came from around you, and you could vibe on the same level, it's going to be a great conversation. You're going to enjoy it. More than likely, if someone's not like you and they have other things, you're not going to I think the juxtaposition is you're not going to click as much with that person, So you have to think of it more than just having friends. It's what I'm saying, You don't necessarily need to love or completely connect with the people you have around you, but you sure need to know how to execute together to make something real. And that goes beyond just having a good time. I think I've become pretty good at that, to get to where I'm at today.
So you're very focused on networking and building this team or building this army. What characteristics do you look for in the people you like to surround yourself with and really want to see out of them in order to become successful together?
Yeah, so actually I would backtrack a little bit, and I would say that more important than networking is being extremely clear about your mission and vision, right? Because if you're extremely clear about your mission and vision, you can grow support, and the swell around you can attract people, right, to your sort of honey, right? You want like bees to honey. And then at that point, you can look at different characteristics. But if you're starting a business and the business is coming from you need people around you to support it. The mission and vision has to be 100% clear so other people can get it. And you have to be a good purveyor of that narrative. You have to be able to explain it really well. You have to be able to sell it to different people. And then with that, you will in turn attract people. Now, what I do look for in people is the things that I look for. Two main things. One is that I don't think of people that join my team like my sort of underlings. I don't look at them as like, I'm your boss. I look at it like, look, if we're going to do this together, I need to support you. My job is to support the things that you need because we agreed that this mission and vision is great enough to execute and we want to dedicate your time to it. So now my job is to provide you resources, right? And to get really smart people around me and get the hell out of their way. That is it, right? So you become like you're basically drafting people, you're drafting people. And I think past that is I reverse engineer it and think to myself, would I work for this person? Because this person is going to attract the other people around that are going to then in turn evangelize your mission and vision. And then they're going to have to do that. And I think to myself, would I follow them? And if I feel like I would follow them, then you're on the right track. But even then, it could be wrong, right? So you have to have some agility to the decisions that you make. And again, these all come with maturity and getting your ass kicked over and over and over again. Having the wrong people around you, getting the wrong investors, getting kicked out of you, not having good support, feeling like you're on your own. These are things that you learn outside of school, for sure.
So there's a pattern that I heard in two of the things you mentioned there, kind of an inverse or reverse mentality when it comes to networking, because I think a lot of people think of, let me join this networking club and see what kind of people it brings to me, what ideas it brings, and then thinking from the reverse mindset of, would I work for this person even though you might be bringing them on? And I appreciate that kind of alternative perspective and approach to that. But one thing I have a question on is, so you think about coming up with an idea and being very capable at selling that idea, and then you attract certain people to join you. What are some strategies that you would have in finding some of those people? Because are you talking to friends about it? Are you writing about it online? Or how do you show this vision to a conglomerate of people and then allow those people to see that and eventually find those right people that come to you?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. In this regard, I come from a place of privilege because it's starting an incubator and having space all over New York City and around the country. I've met thousands of people, right? And even though we hosted events and I've hosted hundreds, if not thousands of events myself. I hate going to events. I hate conferences. I hate how specialty, like real estate seminars and all that shit. I've always felt like the real people are doing the business, not sitting there, patting themselves all on the back, giving themselves awards in a conference. So I'm sort of anti that in my life. Now, I do realize that the benefit to going to these places is you get to meet like-minded people. So I think, but I think what do you talk about when you go there is the bigger deal for me, right? If we're going to go there and, I'm just going to do small talk, I could do that at home. I could go into my local 7-Eleven and shoot with anybody. I guess what I'm referring to is if you want to build something out of nothing and you really believe, and I hope you do, in the vision and mission of what you're doing, you have to live and die with that narrative. You have to wake up and breathe it, and you have to suck it in. You have to obsess over that. I know there's a lot of talk between work balance life and, oh, I want to chill and I want to do this. Well, then go get a fucking 9 to 5. You know what I mean? But if you want to build something that has either not been done before or supporting yourself and the people around you, you gotta that people won't. And part of that is obsessing over what you do to the point where you could tell anybody and get them excited. Because as a founder, your number one job is to sell your to everybody. Your partners that you want to bring on, right? Your investors that you want to bring on if you need investors. And then the don't forget about the market that you need to sell to, right? So the sale starts in you. So I would say just work on that first. It's cool to go to these things, but just be direct and it has to come from you. You have to attract it, because if you don't, nothing's going to happen. So I think the better thing to think about is preparing yourself. By the way, then you can go anywhere. Then you can go in 7-Eleven and talk about your business, right? Let the universe do its job. I met some of my best partners at random places, at a poker table, just shooting the about what I'm doing, and somebody it's like the universe works like a magnet, right? When you're talking about something, and as long as you have a good filter, right, for filtering out all the people that are into what you're talking about will cling on to you, right? The others will just back up, back away, and you'll start to attract this energy, And I think the best thing you could do at that point is to build a filter, and like I said earlier, realize what you're looking for ahead of time, purposefully. What am I missing, right? Putting together this army, right? I got the parachute guys, I got the gunning people in the back, but I don't have any people that run fast, right? So then you see people that are attracted to you, like, how do you run? Oh, I fucking run fast. Oh, you know what I need. Let's roll.
I love how you put that, building an army. My brother and I started the business that we run today, and we have somewhere around 40 people now in our team. And from day one, we approached it in the same way. It's like, who are those people to the left and right of you? Who are those generals? Who are the cavalry? We actually used the same lingo that you did. But a lot of that came with experience, to start to understand what type of people do you want to hire, and how do we figure out who we want to hire. It was all based on who did we have to fire to figure out who we wanted. And so a lot of mistakes came through, the years in the business in the years that we ran our business. So I want to ask you, what were some mistakes that you faced early on, and what were some lessons you learned from that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was hiring people and knowing sort of the red flags have been there that this person is not right, but feeling so loyal to them that I felt like I should keep them around, just out of loyalty. And that's absolutely the opposite of what you need to do, because you're not doing them any favors anyway. And it never works out, right, to your benefit. The worst problems I ever had in business was I had the wrong people around me. Most of that came from good intentions. My intentions were to have this person learn. Oh, I can make this person better. Well, oh, that's not such a big screw up. We can work through it. It's like, hell no. You're out. I have zero tolerance. One of the biggest things, two things: a bad deal never gets better, no matter how hard you try. And the second thing is hire slow and fire fast.
That's something we've had to learn, because as we rapidly grow, sometimes it's just like to fill the gap of capacity needs or marketing needs, whatever it may be. We try to hire as fast as we can because we just need a filler. But then you quickly, and this is something we learned over time as well, quickly realize you're hiring the wrong people in that setting. So something we've also done is exactly like you said, hire slow, fire fast, and we've seen great results from that.
Yeah, and invest in yourself, your narrative. Like, why are you not attracting the right people? Like, it's like if the same thing happens over and over again and you expect different results, right? That's the definition of insanity, right? So like, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? Like, you could sit there and be like, these people friggin' suck, right? And they're like, oh, why do I get all these shitty people? Like, these people are like, what's going on here? Like, the job market's so bad. Like, these soft generational, mother effers, or I'll save you the bleep on this. But that's the wrong way of thinking about it, because it's your job to attract the best people. And that's why I said, focus on the simplicity and the strength of your vision and mission so you can attract the right people, right? Because that has to come from you. You have to be the sales of the sale of the company down the chain, from employee to investors to market. It is on your shoulders, so you better get good at it.
So it sounds like you've had a very iterative process through your experience as an entrepreneur and learning what works and what doesn't. And your project right now focused on debt relief, being 3 years in the making and coming out soon. I assume that you probably have the right people around you. You've made a lot of the right moves. You've worked with the right investors. What are some of the things you did right, and who are some of the strong people that you found to accompany you along this journey?
I like to think of my iterative process as an amazing experience, but it hasn't. It's really getting dragged in the dirt for long enough, and knowing that if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to spend my time, which you never get back, but right, you can get back money, you can't get back time, right? So if I'm going to invest my time into this project, which very well could be a decade longer than that, then who do I want to surround myself with? What am I missing? Can I do this? Can we do this? So with something like debt relief, we looked at, the first thing I said was, we don't want to build something better. We want to build something different. And what I mean by that is, this is a space where everybody's getting right. If you're having problems with your finances and you fall behind on a bill, the creditors are calling you. You might be hiding this information from a loved one. I mean, the stories across America that I've learned, over my career in this space it's crazy and it's miserable, right? And these people are very vulnerable. And where do these people go when typically they need help? They either see a commercial on television that's like 3 o'clock in the morning. That's like this shady, like weird commercial on like, we can, or like these weird TikToks, or they go online and they fill out forms. Well, it turns out there's an underbelly that sells this information. So even the people are getting that are getting hounded by calls from creditors, they start to get hounded by different organizations trying to sell them into these programs. And there's an app for everything. There's an app to pick you up at your, pick you up in, wherever the hell you are in the country or in the world. There's an app that delivers you food in 3 seconds. Why isn't there an app that can really walk people through and help them, take care of their credit card debt? Because that's how simple the solutions are. They're just not being delivered that way. So I knew I needed really great engineering talent because I'm not an engineer, right? So I have these ideas and I know what's wrong with the ecosystem, but in order to build something, you need to have really good developers around you to facilitate these ideas. So I went back in my Rolodex of who I met over the years, and I went to the smartest, most iterative guys that I knew that did full stack engineering, right? For those of you who don't know full stack, it's front end, what you see, and back end, what you don't, right? The bells and whistles behind. And I didn't want to do this as an employee type of relationship. I wanted partners. I wanted founders to come with me. And I wanted, from an engineering perspective, them to tell me if this could be done, right? So we spent a year without raising a dollar, just working the back channels of like doing all the calls, looking at the tech ecosystem, figuring out how we do this. And a perk to them being some of the smartest engineers that I ever met in my career, they're super stylish, right? Because like I want to build something that makes sense for people because this is behavior too. So it has to look really cool. It has to be really easy to use. And so I went to these guys and I was like, look, if you guys want to do something big, here's my mission. Here's my vision. If we do this, this is how big the market could be. Nobody's doing this. And by the way, we could build something that millions of people can use and it could help them. And they were like, let's do it. So like, we were fucking crazy, and we spent a year building in the backgrounds. We raised our seed round with that. After figuring out that we could do this, we built a schematic on how we do that. Would do it. We took our schematic to a couple of venture folks that I knew. We raised the seed round in like 2 weeks, and then past that, we raised our Series A from top tier investors and some really strategic partners. That took less than 30 days. That's what happens when you get the right people around you. I know that, I can only do so much yelling into a camera, getting people around, but, you get the right people around you, it's like magic happens.
So one thing that I really see a similarity in what you're talking about there and what Ophir and I have been trying to do with this podcast is, we saw a lot of garbage on the internet as well. And we wanted to provide a medium to, younger students in high school or college that could provide them with an intellectual pursuit and really give them an insight into, industries, engineering, entrepreneurship, and things like that, they might be scrolling through the internet and just seeing comedy podcasts or this and that. We wanted to provide somewhat of an entertaining yet intellectual medium that wasn't just, become a Bitcoin millionaire or get rich quick or something like that. So I think that was kind of a similar mindset, but something that really took me back was you have always been this kind of entrepreneurial figure and you get excited and passionate about this. Working for you, I assume, isn't like working in corporate America. So since you were looking for, very talented and, aesthetically pleasing when it comes to their work engineers, looking to hire guys like that, for our listeners that might be an engineering student right now, what kind of path can they take coming out of school to end up working for someone like you that could get involved in some type of an entrepreneurial partnership rather than taking that corporate America route and maybe, working for a Google or an Amazon or something like that? What steps do they need to take?
Which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. You're right. If you listen to this, then,
of course,
good jobs at Google are really good from an engineer.
They pay quite well. Yep.
I've been talking this whole time about mission and vision, and I think like if you want to jump off the page for somebody like me, it's connecting and showing me that about this mission and vision. Right? Don't just send me your resume. I get hit up thousands of times on LinkedIn. Right? Every time I write an article or I post something, it's like I get swamped, right? And like, I think the wrong thing to do, and what often goes overlooked, is here's what I could do, here's what I could do, here's what I could do. But what happened is, hey, Jason, I love your mission and vision. Here's what I could do for you, right? And then get creative, right? Like, here's what I could do for you. And by the way, let me work for you for free for a week, right? Give me like a day to get to jump outside the box. Now, I wouldn't want anybody working for free. If I accepted this offer, I'd probably pay them anyway. But I'm just saying, like, wow, this person is willing to sacrifice their time and go above, the status quo. Like, cause like, I think right now, one of the things I see that's common in the younger generations coming up, it's all about what they want. Here's what I want, right? I want this, I want that. And by the way, I don't want to work for it. I want to chill on the beach. I want to work on my own accord. It's like, okay, I get that. That's not for me. You want to work around me. You got to bring your A game, right? You want to do something big. I need big minds, big goals, big ambitions. I need fire, right? So speak to that fire. Show me you could spit fire, right? If I see that you're spitting fire, I'm going to really want you around me. And I think you should figure that out. I think you should figure out if you want a spot in a startup. And I think that's super accessible because there's so many startups. There's so many people building. Look at what strikes you. And you're like, oh, that's a really great idea. I understand that mission and vision. And just reach out to that individual and be like, look, I'm shooting my shot. Here's what I could do for you. I'm asking for a chance. Let's go. Let's do it. Somebody cool is going to respond back and you're going to get that opportunity. I'm saying and for the people that don't hit you back, like probably something, it wasn't what you thought, it wasn't that person or that mission and vision might not be exactly what you thought it would be, but don't think that it's just going to come to you just because you have a great resume too. I get resumes from Harvard, Yale, all the top schools in the world. I don't look at resume anymore. I look at what you are like. I want to know you. I want to know, does this mission and vision resonate with you and why? And with that, what can you do to help us grow?
We always hear about things like product market fit for, an entrepreneurial journey, but so much of it is also, how is that team fit? And I do love that little nugget that you just gave for our guests. And it's really stand out in your job application. Show that you're not just a resume. Show a set of unique skills. Go the extra mile. And that's very important because when we, for example, hire through LinkedIn, we get thousands of applications. And the only way to sift through it is not reading the resumes. It's trying to find one point of uniqueness that the applicant really puts out.
Yeah, I think you said it. And I think that I'd like to just add to that. Look, when you're building a startup, you're building two things. You're really essentially building two products. You're building the product that you're delivering, and you're building the team that's going to deliver it. And chances are the product that you have in your mind, once it hits the market, isn't going to be anything like what you envision it. So the team is actually more important than what you think the final product is going to be, because that team is going to be the ones that make the changes that build the right product for product market fit. So it's in my mind even more important. So you're right. How do you stick out knowing that, right? No, that's how the world works, right? I want to be on this. I want to be a soldier in your army. Here's what I could do here. And we could get to this battle together and just let's go. And you know what? If you illustrate that the right way to a startup founder and they turn you down, hit me up. You know what I mean?
Love that message right there. As we come to the end of the episode, this entire show is predicated on this idea of having no fear, right? So we always like to ask every single guest, what is that no fear moment in your career where against all odds you overcame that fear that you had?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still here, I'm still doing it, and I'm sort of like, I never finished college, right? I don't have a business degree in anything. I never took one business class throughout my whole career. And I've raised over $100 million in my career. I built two companies that have had a good amount of level of success and exit. And every moment that if I look down the pipe and I look back and I looked at the moment that was about to happen and I let my fear not let me do it, then I wouldn't be anywhere. I think fear is a good tool to have so you don't make an ass out of yourself. The fear is to prepare yourself so you can be properly prepared to meet the moment where you need to shine and shoot your shot and get it right. So I don't necessarily think that not having, we can't expect to not be afraid of things. But what you can expect to do is take that fear and turn it into energy to prepare yourself to go through what you need to go to win.
I love that answer. I think that's one of the most exciting answers that we've had on this show from there. And I'm sure that, that source of fear and overcoming that has taken you to a bunch of different places and has made you very successful in the private sector. But I know you've done a little bit of work in the public sector as well. Can you give us a little bit of background of what you did on the government side?
I was building my last business called Alley, and we just did a big deal and gotten all this exposure, and I got all these LinkedIn messages, and so as you can imagine, hopping on LinkedIn, seeing like 200 unread messages, I get some crazy shit, and some of them were scams, and I read this one message came through, and it read like, hey Jason, this is your United States government. And I was like, what is this shit? I'm like, this gotta be. And then I read the whole thing, and I was like, we really would love you to come to the Middle East and represent entrepreneurship. We have a program, it's a speaker program. We'd love you to be part of it. I was like waiting for them to ask me like my credit card number. That's what I felt like reading it. I was like, is this real? So I like called up the number of the person rather than writing them back. And it was a DC number, and they're like, thank you. It was the State Department. And they were like, yeah, we're going to be in New York tomorrow. We'd love to meet up at your office. So I was like, all right, cool. So 2 people came from the State Department. They sat down in my office. I showed them around the space, which was super cool. We had all these entrepreneurs all over the place and, lectures and things going on in the background. It was really cool vibe to be there back in the day. And so they came in my office and, sat me down. Like, look, we want to send you to the Middle East. And we want to get your take and give the spirit of entrepreneurship to these people that are building companies or thinking about building companies in the Middle East. And I was like, for real? And they were like, yeah. I was like, all right, let's do it. So I think I got this official letter. I still have it. It's really cool. It's like, you had to register. They had to do this crazy background check because you got to get some type of security clearance. And then they, like a month later, I'm on a plane, going to Kuwait and like with, and with plans to go to Basra in Iraq, right? And by the way, this is 2014 when Iran-ish, where all those reporters were going into the Middle East and they were getting their heads chopped off on like, in these
ISIS days.
This was in the ISIS days thick of it all. So I told my parents, I told my mother, I was like, I'm going to Middle East. And she's like, what? You are not good, And I'm like, fuck, I'm doing this shit. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little nervous. You know what I mean? Because like, I didn't know what to expect. And at the time I was working with Entrepreneur magazine. So I was like, it'd be cool to document this. Like if we could see what the other side of the world is like and how they're building businesses while I go and speak to them, that might be really cool. So we ended up so I asked Entrepreneur magazine, I was like, would you guys be down to do a documentary, on this journey? And they were like, yeah, let's do it. So we got a crew that flew with me and we flew in and it was amazing. Like, so I really connected with like the spirit of like, and by the way, I was worried and I couldn't be far from the truth of comfortability. Like parts of the Middle East, like Kuwait and, other parts, and the culture of these people are so welcoming. I felt bad for being nervous, It was like I was like, wow, I was like, these people are so much nicer than the people I grew up with. I'm like, there's nothing to fear. They're awesome. And it really showed me, also it talk about no fear. If I would have let the fear of what was going on in that region disconnect me, I would have never had this amazing opportunity to do this, to do this thing and eventually this documentary. Well, I really felt like I killed it for them. It was a 2-week, just a tour of like going around, and like just speaking at different places and meeting all these people. And it really changed my life. It was one of the most fulfilling things I had ever done. And then I met the ambassador to Kuwait at the time. And I was like, look, I could be doing this all over the Middle East. So they gave me, under the Obama administration, they gave me a title. It was like special advisor to technology and entrepreneurship, for, the State Department. And I really built on a really nice platform, got a bunch of other speakers to go out there. And then, sort of died out after, Obama left office. But it was definitely a highlight of my career, for sure.
Well, that's an incredible story, and I'm sure that you have a ton more incredible stories to go along with your journey thus far, and I'm sure you'll build a ton more moving forward. So thank you for coming on with us today, and we wish you the best in the release of this app and everything that you do in the future. So for our listeners, if they ever want to follow your journey and see your successes as they happen, where can they find you?
Yeah, Instagram is great. By the way, it's honored to be with you guys. I wish you the best of luck with this podcast. I'm happy to help in any way I can. If anybody wants to reach out to me, they can go to my Instagram. It's at Jason Saltzman. And that's probably the best way. And, I like to share a lot of shit. I put it up there every once in a while. And feel free to reach out. I love helping people and connecting with them. And, it's been great, guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the No Fear podcast, brought to you by House & Hughes. For more information about our show, visit thenofearpodcast.com. If you enjoy this podcast, be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok for insights into future episodes.